Hey, I am Cindy from the Central Delaware Chamber, and we are going to learn about the new EARNS program. And I want to introduce Colleen C. Davis from the Delaware State Treasurer and Ted Griffith from the Delaware EARNS Program Director. Thank you for both being here, and I'm going to let you go ahead.
All right. Well, good afternoon. It's great to be with you. I'm Colleen Davis, your state treasurer. I'm joined by EARNS Program Director Ted Griffith. Ted has done an incredible job and really excited for the momentum that has been created around the work that we're trying to do on Delaware EARNS. I just want to take a moment to say thank you to Ms. Vendetti and the entire team at the Central Delaware Chamber of Commerce for giving us this opportunity. We're so excited to tell you about EARNS because after years of work, we're ready to launch this new retirement savings plan for private sector workers who don't have access to savings at their jobs. So, what do we want to do? We want to make retirement security a reality. I started advocating to expand retirement savings for Delawareans shortly after I first came into office in 2019, when the pandemic really highlighted the need. You all may remember that people were able to make a penalty-free withdrawal from their 401k under the CARES Act if they were impacted by the pandemic emergency. But what concerned me most was the fact that there are a number of folks, about 150.
So yeah, definitely. We'll find a way for you to get it. Oh, I can ship.
Sorry, so about 150,000 Delaware workers who were not saving for retirement in a 401k-like vehicle because their employers just didn't have one. And so we wanted to sort of close that access gap to ensure that everyone has access to the ability to save for retirement. And so why is Delaware EARNS needed? Again, about 150,000 Delaware workers don't have access to a qualified savings plan. The cost to Delaware of doing nothing to alter that retirement landscape is about $55 million annually. So again, currently the numbers show that over 70% of Americans are concerned that they don't have enough money to retire. Nearly half of Americans aged 55 and older have no savings at all. And we know that one of the main drivers of this problem is just lack of access to a retirement plan. If we can give access to a plan like Delaware EARNS, workers are actually 15 times more likely to save. And we can't overemphasize the need to save for retirement. For many of us, Social Security just won't be enough. The average payment is about half of the median income of a single earner in Delaware. And it, again, just won't be enough. The cost to Delaware taxpayers of doing nothing, as I mentioned, is about $55 million annually. So now's the time to do something. The great thing about it is we're getting this Delaware EARNS program off the ground. So what is Delaware EARNS? It's a new retirement savings program that's sponsored by my office for private sector workers who don't currently have access. The program will provide a pathway to economic security and financial empowerment for workers. It will allow employers to offer a competitive benefit at no cost to the employer. I'm going to say it again, at no cost to the employer. And it will require minimal administrative burden. Again, I think the other bonus is that it will save taxpayers millions of dollars and potentially billions over the long course. I do want to turn it over to Ted just to talk about a little bit further detail and look forward to your questions at the end of the presentation. Thank you again so much for giving me your time.
Treasurer Davis, thank you so much. And as the treasurer was saying, my name is Ted Griffith, a program director for Delaware EARNS, which is going to be a brand new retirement savings program for the private sector. And throughout the remainder of today's presentation, I'll be speaking about the program from both the standpoint of employers and employees. And starting with employers, the really important thing to understand about this program is that for certain employers, facilitating EARNS will be mandatory. So if you're an employer with 5 or more W-2 Delaware employees and you don't offer a qualified retirement plan, you will need to facilitate Delaware EARNS. So for that subset of employers that I just mentioned, they will have to facilitate this program when it launches later this year. On the employee side, employees can opt out. So it's voluntary for employees. But it's important to understand there are, and Cindy and I were talking about this before we started, there are a group of employers for whom this will be mandatory. And we'll be talking about that a little bit more as we go along. Now, in terms of, again, staying with the employers, if you do offer a retirement plan, you are exempt from EARNS if you offer a qualified retirement plan. So we often get asked, well, you know, what plan would qualify me to be exempt from the EARNS requirement? And you see here, this is the full listing of all the plans. It's your standard list of qualified retirement plans. This will also be available on our website, but starting with the 401k and then the whole variety of them. It's also important for us to say that if you are an employer that currently has a 401k, a 403b, absolutely keep offering that. EARNS is not meant in any way to supplant the private sector retirement plans that are available. As Treasurer Davis was saying, we're really trying to reach the group that has no access to a retirement plan at work. So if you have a plan, please keep it. You're exempt from EARNS, and it's a great benefit. I want to take a moment to just tell you about 3 very important aspects of the EARNS program. And this has to do with employees. Number one, as I mentioned, employees will be automatically enrolled into the program. In other words, accounts will be created for them once the employer has registered, and contributions from the employer's payroll will go into those accounts, their Roth IRA accounts, unless the employee opts out. So it is a voluntary program at the employee level, but employees will need to opt out if they prefer not to participate. So that's, want to make sure that's clear. And again, obviously, we're looking forward to your questions at the end and happy to clarify anything there as well. The second important thing to know about the EARNS program is it's just a great example of a public and private partnership in so many respects. The first is this entire program is overseen by the Office of the State Treasurer. As many of you know, the Office of the State Treasurer has decades of deep experience overseeing hundreds of millions of dollars on behalf of Delawareans. So we've got we've got the public sector partner down pat. We also have a great private sector partner in doing this. We have hired a company called Vestwell to be the program administrator. Vestwell is really the leader in these state IRA programs, which are becoming increasingly popular. Vestwell is the administrator for virtually all of the programs out there, including our neighbors, Maryland and Virginia have these programs already up and running, and New Jersey will have it soon as well. And in all cases, this company Vestwell that I'm talking about has been selected as the administrator. And then the third thing, as Treasurer Davis mentioned, but I'm going to repeat, there's absolutely no cost to the employers for doing this. We think that's very important. So again, certain employers, 5 or more employees, no retirement plan, you have to facilitate EARNS, but it costs you nothing whatsoever. Treasurer Davis alluded to that, the office did a lot of study, especially after the crisis of the pandemic, on the problems that exist here for facing Delawareans. And really one of the things that the office looked at was what are the obstacles that prevent employers from offering retirement plans? Ideally, we'd have 100% of employers offering them, but many are not able to. And as you see here, we do recognize, and Treasurer Davis recognizes, there are three major hurdles especially for a small business, that prevent them from offering these retirement plans. There can be, with 401ks, a fair amount of administrative hassle, filing of the so-called 5500 forms, liability. You have to pay a 401k provider, and sometimes it's to the tune of thousands of dollars, the employer does. And then when people are leaving your employment, you're stuck with these accounts, and what do you do with them? How do you stay in touch with folks that have left your employ? EARNS sweeps all of these hurdles away especially for our small businesses. It's very, very minimal administrative. Again, no fees talking about the employer, no fees whatsoever for the employer. And then as folks do move on to other jobs, that the employer does not need to be concerned with that whatsoever. That'll be my problem in overseeing the program. We take care of that. Employees who move on, they're free to leave it with us in the Delaware EARNS program, or because it's a standard Roth IRA, they could simply roll it to a new account if they like. But again, the employer, that's not the employer's concern whatsoever. So we really feel like one of the great things about this program is it removes these three big hurdles. And of course, I'm sure everyone is curious about the timing for this. So just want to spend a moment on the timeline. We are just beginning a pilot phase, kind of a final dress rehearsal or test run, if you will, before we open up statewide July 1. So a small number of Delaware employers, very diverse and up and down the state. They're going to be the first to kind of pilot this for us and then give us feedback just to refine things even further. On July 1, we open to all eligible Delaware employers. So that's anybody with 5 or more employees and no retirement plan. So starting July 1, you can sign up for this program. Many employers are eager to do so because it gives them a chance finally to offer retirement benefit to their workers. And then after the July 1 opening, employers that are required to facilitate EARNS will have until October 15th. October 15th will be the deadline to register. So you can register as early as July 1 and then as late as October 15th. So that's the timeline, and we'll be doing a lot of outreach around this. I want to take a moment just to talk about how this will work at the employer level. Employers throughout the state, we have a database of information on employers. Employers throughout the state will be receiving either emails or letters from us, letting them know that now is the time to go ahead and register for Delaware EARNS, or if you have a 401k or some other retirement plan, just to certify that you're exempt. So the employer will get the notice. They will then go to earnsdelaware.com. That website will be live next month. They will then go to earnsdelaware.com. If they have the 401k, it's just a couple clicks. They just attest formally that they have the 401k and they're out of the picture. That's all done. They don't have a retirement plan. They go ahead, and it's a secure website. Obviously, they upload information about their employees. Based on that information, our program administrator will create the accounts for the employees. And then really the last piece on the employer end is just to remit the payroll contributions, fund the payroll contributions every payroll cycle, money going into these Roth IRA accounts. And we also recognize too, there's a little bit of maintenance work for the employers, just as people come and go. Obviously, you have to make sure the roster is up to date of who you're contributing for. Beyond that, though, there really are no expectations for employers. So typically when you have a 401k plan and you're an employer, you know, there's some obligation, or you at least feel some obligation to, well, I got to educate people about investments and taxes, and I need to do matching contributions, and I need to oversee if somebody wants to take a loan from the 401k, I got to make sure that that's possible and make sure that that gets administered. None of that in this case, it applies with Delaware EARNS. The employers don't need to do anything around education. There's no matching in this program. Again, there's no cost to the employer, and also there are no loans. Employees on their own, the participants in the plan, because they're Roth IRAs, at any time they can withdraw their original contribution amounts free of tax and penalty. But again, that's not something the employer needs to be concerned with. And I've covered a lot of this, but just to highlight a couple things here. As I mentioned, there's no matching contributions. So employers, even if they wanted to, with our particular program, they're not allowed to match contributions. The other thing I should say about Delaware EARNS from the standpoint of employers is that there is no plan sponsor liability associated with this program. And I realize that sounds like a very technical point, but it's important. If you're an employer and you offer a 401k, technically speaking, you are taking on some degree of liability. You have to have ensured that the investments are reasonable and the fees are reasonable. And if somebody could say you failed to do that, you do have liability there. That is not the case with Delaware EARNS. Delaware EARNS is, as we've said, is overseen by the Office of the State Treasurer. Further, we have a board of state leaders and community leaders that oversees us. And so we have taken care of ensuring that the investments and the fees are sound. And so that liability is not at play when it comes to employers. I'll turn now to employees and just how the process will work there. So after the employer has uploaded the information to earnsdelaware.com, the accounts get created. No contributions are taken immediately, however. The employees will receive an email notification from the program administrator that they have been signed up to participate in Delaware EARNS, and that within 30 days, a 5% contribution will be taken from their check and put into their Roth IRA account. If employees are not in a position where I just can't part with the 5% right now, or 3%, or even 1%, that's completely fine. Nothing will happen for 30 days. It's a very simple process. They can opt out. So there's a 30-day kind of window there before any payroll deductions get taken. I should also be clear, I refer to this as the 30-day opt-out period. Almost makes it sound like that's your only chance to opt out. Employees may opt out and opt back in at any time. And certainly we recognize, with the ups and downs, financial ups and downs that folks face, there may be times when they need to opt out. We would welcome them when they're ready to opt back in. Really, this is in the employee's best interest, and so we hope as many as possible will take advantage of it. I spent a lot of time earlier in the presentation highlighting the benefits to employers of Delaware EARNS, but it's really important for me not to lose sight in highlighting the tremendous benefits to our Delaware workers of this program, and you can see some of them here. One thing in particular that's important to understand is the program is the underlying account for the program is just your standard Roth IRA, coincidentally named for our late Senator Roth. But it's the Roth IRA, and as you may know, the great thing about the Roth IRA is that it sets up the possibility when the person reaches retirement age, that they can make qualified withdrawals that are completely free of federal and state income tax. And in my mind, one of the exciting potential scenarios with this is that, somebody, maybe they weren't even able to make a lot of money during their career. They just had modest earnings, but we get them into Delaware Earns early. They contribute regularly, and they're staying at it. And then when they get to retirement, they have a good sized nest egg. And moreover, because it's in a Roth, they can take it out and they don't have to worry about paying Uncle Sam or Delaware, for that matter, any tax on all that growth. And you can see, again, it would take a long time, and it takes consistent contributions. But I think you can see from that scenario, really a life-changing situation where somebody would go from a retirement that would be pretty bleak to one where they can, actually enjoy themselves. So anyway, we just think it's going to be fantastically beneficial for workers. It's also designed for workers to be as easy as possible. So we have, in a sense, created an easy path. We call it kind of the default path. One of the obstacles for saving for retirement is you can encounter a lot of complex decisions that you're asked to make. We try to kind of take that out of the equation with Delaware Earns, so that the Roth IRA account gets automatically open for you. A contribution rate of 5% of your paycheck gets automatically set for you, and then your contributions then go into an investment that's perfectly designed for retirement and long-term investing based on your age. So if you do nothing at all, you kind of get on the right path. Of course, we recognize that there are going to be some workers out there that would like to make their own decisions, and absolutely we support that. They would want to maybe, I'm doing pretty well, I want to contribute more, or I'm interested in investing. I want to select from a menu of investments. That's absolutely part of the program. They can do that, but that's not the default path. Again, but this is just about making it as easy as possible for as many people as possible. And I've talked a lot about the employers for whom Earns will be mandatory, and then the employees that are working at those employers that are required to facilitate Earns. Obviously, there's a large number of folks that fall outside of that required realm. You may be, completely self-employed, or maybe you work at a business that has 3 employees. If that's the case, we welcome you as an individual to just voluntarily set up an account, link it up with your bank, and that will be. I've tested that myself. Kind of just doing it on the site as an individual. It's very easy to do. So if for some reason your employer doesn't facilitate Delaware Earns, you can still consider setting up an account as an individual for yourself and go ahead and make those contributions. These are just some important points, again, from the standpoint of employees to keep in mind. And all of this information will be on our website when that goes live next month, earnsdelaware.com. One thing that I haven't mentioned up until now is the program administrator for us, this company called Vestwell, will of course be operating a customer, in addition to the website and all the great things on the website, they'll be operating a customer support call center. So if employees have questions, they're able to call in. They'll be able to get support in English or Spanish. So again, it's about making sure there's no burden on the employers. You don't have to, if you're an employer, do not bog yourself down in answering questions. Just go ahead and give them, when it's available, that 800 number, and they can call and they can talk directly with the folks who know. So that's an important point. And again, for employees, It's an opt-out program, but it's entirely voluntary at the employee level, entirely voluntary at the employee level. And just highlighting some important points, reiterating some important points here from the standpoint of employers. Of course, as a mandatory program, mandatory for that group of employers that I've mentioned, if someone decides not to facilitate the program after proper notice and a certain amount of time, there is the potential that the employer could face administrative penalties. However, we're not in any rush to make this some kind of punitive thing. Absolutely not. We really feel, and I was in the discussion beforehand with Cindy, we really feel it's just a matter of getting the word out. Because I think once employers, small businesses, our small nonprofits understand what a great resource and partner Delaware Earns is, they'll be eager to sign up. So, but did just want to mention that. And just very lastly, we're committed. Treasurer Davis has a big commitment to making sure that her office is responsive to the public. So please, at any time, best way to get a hold of us is earns@delaware.gov. That comes directly to me, but it also comes to my colleagues. If I'm out of the office, we'll make sure we get it picked up. We pride ourselves. We always do our best to respond as quickly as we can. And we welcome questions, suggestions, concerns. We especially welcome people that want to sign up. So write to us at earns@delaware.gov. And as I said, the EARNS, there's some great information on the treasurer's website about EARNS, but the site that is going to be the one where everyone registers, both employees and employers, that's going to be earnsdelaware.com. And again, we're anticipating sometime in May that will be going live. So really would welcome any questions you have today. But if you're like me, you always after the webinar, you remember what you wanted to ask. So if you forget what you wanted to ask right now, please write to us and we're happy to get your answer. We welcome your questions. Thank you.
I do have a question. I'll
Please.
ask the first one. So if an employer only has 5 employees and only 4 want to do it, does that make them disqualified or are they still qualified?
In that case, they're still qualified. It's just it's a very, very good clarifying question, Cindy, but it really doesn't have anything to do with how many opt in. It's just if you have 5 employees and no retirement plan, you got to at least register. If nobody wants to do it, that's fine. If all 5 want to do it, that's even better. But yeah, you would still need to register.
Hi, this is Angel Hodges. I have a question.
Absolutely, Angel.
So if this is a state website where the employees go out to make their changes, how are those changes then given back to the employer? To know, like, say if my employee goes out and changes from 5% to 8%, how do I know to update that in my payroll software?
Sure, absolutely. And once we have this up and running, all of that will be integrated together. So that you get the proper notice, absolutely, of the changes. So if they go from 5% to 3%, or otherwise, we'll make sure that the technology and the systems will be built. So we make sure you get that notification, if they do change it. Absolutely.
Hey Ted, Mike Profit here. Question on the employee fees. I know you
Yes.
touched on it. What were they again?
So for employers, there's no cost. For employees at the employee level, there is an annual account fee that's $26. So $26 annual account fee. And then in addition to that, there is an asset-based fee, which depends a little bit on the investment selected, but for the vast majority of participants is going to be just over 1/4 of a percentage point. 29 basis points in our world, Mike.
Thank you.
Yes, so Mike brings up a good point. Completely free to employers, but as is typical with a retirement plan, the participants do bear the cost of operating the plan. We, over time, as we grow the assets and the plan gets even bigger, that will create some economies of scale for us. And so we are hopeful to be able to reduce those participant fees as we go forward.
Yeah. And I would just add that although we're talking about sort of a space in Delaware of about 150,000 Delaware workers, we know that some people are going to not opt to save. And so that was the precipitous for establishing a partnership with a few other states so that we can help to sort of spread that cost and make it a lot easier for individuals to afford to save and really make it, fractions of a penny on a dollar. So again, to the point of the question, it's been really well thought out to ensure that we're really making saving available and accessible. And again, to Angel's point, we want to make it as sort of seamless as possible for everyone, including the employee and the employer.
Does anyone else have a question?
I have one for you, Cindy. How long do you think it'll be before you'll have this on your site?
I will say it will probably be on by Friday. Crystal usually puts them up and she's got the event tomorrow, so she's really busy. But it'll be on our website under coffee coaching. And then I'm also going to email it out, have them broadcast it out. Because I think it's I think it's great.
Yeah, I volunteer for SCORE Delaware. So we're working with startups and small business owners all the time. So it's good for them to know that it's out there, and it's good for our mentors to have access to this presentation as well. And then as a financial planner, I'm working with small business owners too, and being involved in different networking groups and other chambers will be very helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And we're so grateful, as the treasurer said, we're so grateful to the Central Delaware Chamber for doing this. Actually, Lisa Hastings, who's been very involved with the chamber, she's actually on one of our committees, and so we just love. We really appreciate your support and openness, and likewise, Mike. Thank you for that. I know SCORE is such a great program and a great way to get information out.
Yes, it is. I sent a lot of people to SCORE.
Yeah.
And thank you, Ted and Treasurer Colleen Davis. Thank you for doing this. And I want to thank everybody for coming. And if you have any questions, we'll have it on our website and you'll be able to click on it, rewatch it. And I appreciate everyone for being here.
All right.
Thank
Thanks
you
so much,
again.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.